Brian Carroll, it is my pleasure to be with you, and you just reminded me the other day that it was 10 years ago, almost to the day, that I got a phone call from a young fellow in Florida asking for a little bit of help with his back. And over those 10 years, you started out as first a patient, we'll say. Then I got to know you as a world record holder athlete. Not that you didn't already have one, but you came back and reestablished that in spades. Then as a friend, and now as a clinical colleague. So this is fabulous to be here in, I don't know what you call this. Is this your training center, or is this your clinic, or is it all of the above?
It's my training center / clinic, I think is an appropriate way to put that. Less powerlifting centric now, much less these days.
It doesn't look like it.
True.
In any case, I've got 4 questions that people often ask me, and I think this will formalize a little bit of some things that will really help. So I want to go back now. I've got 4 questions to guide us through this. And what people ask me a lot about is that world record performance. You squatted 1,306 pounds. Do you know how much that is in kilos? Because not everyone is American in pounds. So in kilo, do you know how much that is?
592.5 kilos.
594 is what my cell phone says.
Then I will go with the cell phone.
In any case, here's my perspective on this, having worked with athletes who have an ability to create tremendous power, tremendous speed, and tremendous strength. So, for the audience, movement, and particularly strength, starts as a thought, and then you are able to transform that thought into a pulse train, a series of electrical pulses that travel down the nerves, tell the muscles to activate, and then you create strength. To have a world record means that you have a off-the-chart ability to transform that thought of strength, to bypass all the fuse boxes that are in your neurology that say don't destroy this body, and then create something in that transformation that no other human has been able to do. So when I'm in the room and you can do those kinds of things, hi sweetie, it's all right. Yeah.
Hey, just hang out right here for a minute.
It's Riley, yep.
Yeah, can you sit right there and be quiet?
Okay, going back to that transformation that very few people have the ability to pull off. Did you develop it? Were you born with it? Do you enhance it? Where did it come from?
I think definitely, see, it's one of the big reasons right there that I've had to change my thinking in the last couple of years, because I would override every single thing that would be telling me not to do something. Because now that I have 2 daughters, I have a little bit more apprehension, or a lot more apprehension, to be honest with you. Going back to a podcast I did with Dave Tate in 2020, I said to him, I'm afraid that once I have my little girls, once they come, that was a month before they were born, I'm not going to want to lift anymore, because I know the possible repercussions and the things that I know that are basically non-negotiable when you make a deal with the devil playing powerlifting, or playing the game of powerlifting. Eventually, the devil's going to get his due, and so I knew that the time was near. So I tell you that because before, I didn't give a shit I didn't give a care what happened to me. All that I was thinking about when I was going to the bar was not embarrassing myself and coming up with that weight. Every ounce of my energy was thinking about what I was to do. If something happened, what I would do to overcome that. A bad lift off out of the rack. Maybe I get unstable for some reason because of the platform. What am I going to do if that happens? Every ounce of my being was going into that lift when I would walk up there. And I realized the last time that I took a weight on the platform, which was the 1306 in October 4th of 2020, I realized that was the last time that I ever wanted to be completely okay with whatever happened. So I knew there was a good chance. You know, there's a limit to what a human can lift, whether they're wearing a squat suit, a belt, and wraps, and all those different things. What is the limit? I don't know what the ultimate limit is, but I knew that I was approaching it. And of course, there's a lot of things in my head that were telling me, can you even lift this weight? Is it possible for a human to lift this much weight without their knees blowing apart, their back blowing apart, you know, whatever it may be? So I made a deal with myself as I was getting ready for that last lift, and as I approached it, and I actually told God this. I said, get me through this last lift and I'll be done, because I always approached it like it was life or death. And I was okay with whatever the outcome was. If it was an injury or whatever it was, I put all the cards, you know, I put everything in the pot, and I was okay with whatever happened. So that's a little bit of a roundabout way of answering. It was developed through times of failure in lifting and choking or just not executing. And I have a really good memory, so I would use things to motivate myself when I get onto the bar, past failures, things that I'm dealing with mentally, to harness all of that and create so much tension and stiffness and almost anger to do what I needed to do and be able to let that go. So I think I've always been an aggressive person. So I think that some of that was genetic, being able to summon all my strength at one time, just digging down and just turning it on, and then also know how to turn it off in between repetitions. A lot of it was the people that I watched as I was a young power lifter. I would watch them lift. How do they approach it? Well, different people approach it in different ways. Some people get really amped up. Some people are really like a tornado inside a storm, you know, and they go and unleash it on the bar. I found that it took me time to realize how I wanted to approach the bar and what I needed to do for myself, not what person A did or person B did. And it took time. So I think it was developed over time. I think a lot of it was genetic to be able to do that. And I think a lot of it was the confidence that I had going forward, being through so much with my back, doing the lifting for so long, having my records broken. I think that there's a lot of different aspects there that allowed me to be able to squat that much weight.
I'm going to bring you back to this because this is always such a fun conversation. As you know, I've worked with many grand old women and men of strength over the years. We were sitting out on the deck the other night, and a fly flew by, and this man got the fly. You have an incredible speed, and you know, Bill Kazmaier, world's strongest man,
Yep.
cat quick. Mm-hmm. You walk up to a bar, half your training load, which I've seen you pull 600 pounds deadlift off the floor with speed and acceleration. Mm-hmm. There is something that you do that transforms that thought into this controlled electrical pulse train. That's the science in me. Where's your brain at? You have to go to a state of almost committing homicide to your body. When I talked to Bill Kazmaier about this, he's the only one I've ever met who says, I go to a place of light. Mm-hmm. The power comes down, invades my body. Mm-hmm. But almost all the rest of you have this, I call it a dark place.
Yeah.
And somehow you go to that dark place to be able to transform that thought into something that will murder your body, but you have enough other technique to not allow it to destroy your body.
It's just like a monster inside is what it is, and I just let it out. And I know I rambled a little bit earlier, but it's all those things combined that just manifest, and I just turn it on like a light bulb. And then the problem is when you know how to tap into that, sometimes in your daily life, it'll want to start coming out. If something unfair, like everything's unfair, but if something unjust, like seems to happen, you want to unleash that. So it's absolutely a dark side, because when I'm younger, when I was younger and I was starting powerlifting 24 years ago, I didn't have a lot of life experience and I didn't have a chip on my shoulder. And a lot of that, part of the dark side, is a chip on my shoulder. The good news is it helps me lift more weight. The bad news is if I don't control it, it will just crush me and everyone around me. So failures that I've had in the past, I think about those. The lifts that I've missed, the things that I've screwed up, shortcuts that I've taken in the past. I don't even have to think about those things, but I go and I pull that feeling of being angry and frustrated and wanting excellence, excellence, excellence. Also, I'm scared. I'm scared of embarrassing myself and I'm scared of getting crushed. So I put all that together and I have no choice but to come up. I would rather my hip or my knee or my back explode than, at the time, I know that's not a rational thought, but I would rather that happen than for me not to miss that lift.
I remember that first day 10 years ago, I said to you, I think, no promises, but I think, you were pretty substantially injured. I think I can get you out of pain. And this man said to me, yes, and then I want my world record back. Do you remember that sentence? And I knew then I was in front of a very special person. So let's go back to 10 years ago. We assessed your back pain and tried to understand the pathways and the mechanisms, and then organize a program to stimulate those tissues to heal and callus in the way that we needed, just to get a base foundation, and then a few thoughts on restoring some pain-free activity with no promises of ever a world record or even powerlifting again. But I said to you that this is, to get that base is going to take a year. Now, when I say that to a lot of young fellows, a year is hell for them, and some of them will go and find someone else who will tell them, oh, it's okay, just keep training. Mm-hmm. And then I get them back in another year, and they're finally willing to say, I think I have to let biology here, with a little bit of science to guide it, to get my body restored sufficiently that I'm out of pain. I know you took a lot of verbal ribbing from your colleagues and whatnot, and why you're doing this, but you stayed with it as you needed to for the better part of a year. So that was a lot of professionalism. Where did that come from?
That dark side. Wanting to meet that dark side again, wanting to go tap into that dark side again. But so what I did is I harnessed that. My wife can tell you, and some of those that know me well know that if I get locked onto something like a great white shark, I can be difficult. And sometimes it's more of a curse than a blessing, because I get locked onto something and I get obsessed about it and I can't let it go. So what I had to do was just change my thinking a little bit. That same focus that makes me absolutely fearless under the bar. That same thing that makes me never miss a workout. I never missed a workout. Never just said, I don't feel like training today. Now it's different, especially like later in my career. If I wasn't feeling good that day, I wouldn't train, or I'd do a very light day. But that same focus and intensity that I had that would help me be successful in powerlifting and a lot of areas in life, that's what I had to harness in listening to the expert. Because I tried everything on my own. I had to learn the hard way for a bit. I'm not sure that I would have listened so appropriately and to the T as I did in May of 2013, seeing you, because I was so beat down and broken. I thought, like a lot of people out there, that you go to the surgeon, you go to the doctor, they send you off for some shots, and then everything's good, man. You've heard of people, oh, I got a shot and I was good for 2 years. So I had to have those failures over time. And at one time I thought I was gonna go get a micro disc and I'd just be fine. I'd get back to lifting and everything's great. There's no setbacks there. I had to learn the hard way, and I think a lot of people have to learn the hard way. And so when I went to see you, I was completely broken. Like a lot of people that reach out to me, they're just broken. They're like, I've tried everything. I've spent so much money on these different things, and no one can tell me what's going on with me. So I was at that point. And another common thing that people say when they reach out is one of two things, and they told me the same thing. You're fine, or you're never gonna be better. It's nothing, there's no nuance there. It's one or the other. And that's what people were telling me. So once you said, hey, here's what we have to do, you had a plan, you spent time with me, we spent the whole day together, how can you uncover anything in 15 minutes? You can't do it. You just can't do it. And so I started to realize that if something wasn't quite right with the doctor, I have to wait 2 more months to come back and follow up with it. So I'd failed so many times on my own. And so before I even went to see you, I told Rhea this: I'm going to follow 100% what Dr. McGill says, no matter what he tells me. Eat white dog poop. I'll eat the white dog poop. Whatever it takes. I didn't care. Whatever you told me to do, I was going to do it. With the caveat of being that I wanted to come back, but I was going to listen to your guidance. So I'd already made up my mind, and whatever you told me, if it was going to take 2 years or whatever, I was just going to be like, okay, well, I have to become pain-free anyway to enjoy my life, because we'll talk about that in a little bit. It was interrupting every aspect of my life. So it only made sense to me that I've got to get pain-free anyway to live my life. So let's listen to the expert, and then he might be right. He might be right, but I didn't want to even consider that. Maybe he is right and I can't lift again, but I got to get my life back. So I followed it to a T, and I wanted to give myself the best chance of recovering and feeling better. And the proof was in the pudding within a couple of weeks of winding my pain down by moving well, because I was such a sloppy, habitual offender of provoking my pain, sitting, standing, the way I bent all the time, my posture, it was just awful.
We ended up writing a book together, Gift of Injury. And I must say that that was the beginning of our relationship, our friendship, and it's been a real joy in my life. But it was the book that started it, because it was a lot of work to put that together.
Yep.
And the book starts with you writing, was it 2 pages? And a few people have told me that's, as an athlete, the most emotional 2 pages that they've ever read. You have just come out of the hospital. You're in the parking lot of the hospital, and you have a pistol in your hand, wondering who is Brian Carroll.
Yeah.
I hate to do this to you, but can you take us back to that time? Because a lot of our patients are there, and that's how they come.
I've gotten countless emails saying the intro to Gift of Injury is me right now, or it was me 2 months ago. I remember when I first connected with Michael De La Pava, the strongman that we've both worked with. Great dude. He goes, bro, your book, the first couple pages was me 3 weeks ago, wondering who I am if there's no strongman. And he ended up being a good story too to recover. I just left the neurosurgeon, where they kind of just blown me off again. I needed to get another reading because the Tesla and the MRI was low, and ended up being a junk reading, being a bigger person, more muscle or whatever. So I remember leaving that wing of the hospital, and Rhea and I had to split because she met me there. So she went in one parking garage, I went to the other. And she saw how mad I was. I actually took the MRI image like a child and slung it as hard as I could. I'm lucky I didn't blow my shoulder off. So I slung it, broke it, it was useless, and I hauled butt to the car. And I remember thinking, like, I'm so frustrated, I'm so sick of this stuff. Like, there doesn't seem like there's a way out of my pain. There doesn't seem a way out of, getting back on track with my lifting, because my deadlift and squat just kept going backwards and backwards and backwards, and my capacity in day-to-day kept going backwards. And I considered, pulling the trigger on that gun for a couple of seconds, but Rhea texted me right before I got in the car. So I checked my phone as I was starting the car up, and I remember she said this, and I don't know if this was in the book or not. We could probably write a second book with all the details to fill in more blanks potentially. There's a lot of stuff there. Yeah. She wrote, "Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything rash," something along those lines. And so that was a good forethought in my brain. Yeah. She knew I was pissed. She knew that I was like, man, what is this?
Yeah, I've got to know Rhea very well. She's a good friend of my daughter. And you're bringing a lump to my throat, because those two as well.
Yeah.
My daughter is a clinician, and she now has to deal with these really emotional, psychological dark spots in people's lives. And let's go there now and finish this up with my final question. You retired as a world record holder, done something that no one has ever done. And self-admittedly, you were able to do that because you focused on you. And you had your better half, Rhea, supporting you all the way. She's a fabulous woman.
Yep.
I see it with your raising your kids now. But you've transformed. And I also see you work, and that's why we're down here at Power Rack Strength. Again, I don't know whether it's the clinic or the training center, because it's all of those things. But you now put the same dedication, and when I see you with a patient, you're focused on them. Whereas you used to be all about BC, Brian Carroll, it's all now about the person in front of you. So tell us about that transition where instead of changing BC's life, you're changing other people's lives. But man, you sweat bullets doing it.
Yeah, I love it. So one, I love it. And maybe this kind of ties together a couple of the questions. I let that part of me go. I let it kind of die with that last lift. And that's why you haven't seen me stirring in the last 2.5 years. Like, Brian, I haven't heard from you in a while. If you didn't hear from me about every other week or sometimes weekly, maybe we might go a few weeks without talking, you'd probably think something was up. And that something that would be up would probably be piddling around. And next thing you know, you get a video from me. Here's 1100. Does it sound familiar from years before when I'd kind of consider stepping away? I let that part of me die with that last lift. It's gone. That place I have to go, it literally makes me a little nauseous thinking about when someone's like, Brian, did you see this, this lift? Then I start thinking, like, do I want to get under a bar with 900 pounds on the bench? No. Oh my God. It makes me just, no. But that was part of the dark side. That was that dense neurological signal I could send and just turn it on, and then you just let it go. And I think that it's a good thing I was able to let that go, because some people just can't let that go. They can't let the feeling in the spotlight go, or just training for something, always pushing for something. So my love isn't there anymore for competing and lifting and all those things. My love is now to help as many people as possible, because I can relate. I have the empathy for them, and I have the relatability with people that so many people, and I'm speaking for myself here, so many people, like when someone reaches out to me and they tell me they're doing physical therapy, I've not one time gotten or seen their program be appropriate for them. Not one time. That doesn't mean that all physical therapists are bad and they can't do anything right. I'm saying in my experience, I've never seen a good back program for someone that's seen a physical therapist. And that is an email I get every single day. I'm doing physical therapy and it's failing. It's a cookie cutter physical therapy program. I don't spend time with anybody. And that motivates me, because I know that there's a good chance I could help them get better. And it isn't about my ego, like, look at me, I got X amount feeling better, or this person. Most of the people, you'll never know if we've helped them or not for NDAs or certain other things, right? I don't want to talk about all that. Most people don't make me sign NDAs. I'm not that popular yet. Some people are, but I just don't care about that. If it's going to help me reach more people, then so be it. But for bragging rights, I like to do it to help other people. And of course, with that, I feel good about making someone else feel better. And I just know how much room there is for me to grow, and so many other people to grow in this industry, because they don't get good treatment. They don't have time with the clinician, the coach, the provider, to talk about what the hell is going on in their life. If you're expecting someone to be adherent to a program and their dad just died and they're only 25 years old, do you think they're really going to be adherent to this program right now? Maybe if they're crazy like I was, but most people aren't of that mindset. And so you can't just treat everyone as if it were you, as far as the way you program for them and you respond to them. So everyone's so unique. But how do you get to know somebody and how they respond? You gotta spend time with them. So that's what I want my life's work to continue to be, helping as many people as possible, spending time with them, coaching them, showing them that they can get out of pain, that they can feel better, and they're their best advocate. They gotta take a deep interest in their own daily habits and exercises, and they're gonna have to back off from the exercise addiction a lot of the time. And I get it. I was addicted to powerlifting. I was addicted to the world records. I was addicted to competition. I get that. But if you really love it and you're not able to do it right now, it only makes sense to me to do whatever is necessary to have your best chance to be able to get back there to do it again. And if you're barely treading water right now and you love the sport so much, that seems like the worst way to go out. And so I want to help people of all sorts. We're seeing people of all walks of life, 20, 46 years old. Some run hundreds of miles a week. Some are former police officers. Some are stud athletes. They're all over the spectrum.
Some are like our patient yesterday. What came in as what I thought was a little old lady, and then she turned into a 16-year-old all over again. And it was fabulous to watch that transformation over the 3 hours or so that we spent with her. BC, thanks so much for hanging out with an old man and making my life enriched.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.